let you know cameras are rolling.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, too late. Cameras are rolling. Oh, don't worry. Well, this is all. I have to run a lead on the camera, so I have something to edit in. So it's not just a hard coming into the show. What, Mike? Do you have something for the show?
Never have anything.
You don't to open up the show. You better have something.
Better have something.
Sorry, type deal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the, just to give everyone an outline of what you are and who you are. Okay. And then from there we can go. Okay, he's off the air. Now you can talk about him, Mike.
Okay, now we can talk about it. Got it.
Got it?
You like his glasses too?
Yeah, I like his glasses. He's got
good glasses.
He's got good glasses.
That was Jim. He had nerd glasses on.
We don't talk about Jim anymore. You have something to open the show?
Sort of, kind of, maybe.
Tommy Lasorda?
Yeah.
You going to talk about the Super Bowl?
What happened to the Super Bowl?
It was super and it was boring.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the award-winning #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. On this week's show, joining us here in the studio, we have a professional horseman and long-lining trainer, Richard Malmgren. He's going to go over horsemanship, horse management, and horse careers. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing all right. And very well. You didn't welcome the guest as well. Normally you blow it and say, hey, Richard. I'm like, no, Richard's not here yet. He's coming up. So how are you, Mike? Looks like you got a little shiner going on there. What happened? Tell me what happened. Who punched you?
Did you want me to come with a better story than the real one?
What was her or his name?
Well, yeah, I think I did that to myself.
What'd you do?
I just clumsy.
Clumsy how? Clumsy working on horses or clumsy around the house?
Just clumsy, period. Everything. It doesn't matter.
Just getting out of the truck?
Just getting out of the truck, ran into the door. No, actually, yeah, that was about it.
Yeah.
About it. Did you see the Super Bowl?
I did watch the Super Bowl. I had a great time. I don't watch the whole entire season. The only time I watch football is the Super Bowl.
Well,
Hold on. There you go.
The horses, nobody told them it was the Super Bowl, so I was not watching the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Had to go take care of a few things with a client horse.
Anything drastic? Anything out of the ordinary?
Everything's out of the ordinary in my world.
Uh-huh.
But no, not really. He had they had a party in the barn the other day. And
you had to work during the party?
No, the horses had a party, and that's why I had to go back. I just worked on the horse, and the horse had rather an interesting setup on him because of navicular issues, along with some kissing spine. So we were working around that and keeping him much happier. But he decided between him and his buddy and running and slipping and sliding and getting out and all that kind of stuff, it apparently Sunday morning early was a party day for him.
Why is that?
Because they decided it was. I guess they knew it was a Super Bowl party, right?
Right.
So then I had to go take care of a few issues there because I was fairly close to the area. I was working on my mechanics, horses, and also getting my truck serviced.
Oh, okay. So it was like a 1-2. Get your truck fixed, and I'll fix your
truck fixed, and I'll fix the horse's feet. Right?
Good. So anything exciting else happened this week, Mike? Anything outstanding?
Well,
did you do your homework about the soaring?
A little bit, yes.
So tell me what you found out about the soaring. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you were listening to us last week, Mike brought up that as far as February 2nd, 2025, the HPA, the Horse
Protection Act.
Yeah, Protection Act, which was established about 55 years ago, was going to talk about soaring horses or not having horses being soared, which means doing irregular stuff to the horses, and it was going to affect or would affect Mike doing his job. And then I got into, after the show, I dove in a little bit to it. It's not going to take effect. It's been put on hold right now.
Right.
But it's not going to take effect, I think, until somewhere around the first week of April of this year as well.
Right.
So what did you find out?
Well, the definition of soaring, apparently that is a good bit of the whole bill is being looked at being revamped because of overstepping bounds. Because if you look in the bill and you really start picking it apart, the act of putting fly spray on a horse's legs or a lubricant or something like that.
Really? That simple stuff?
That was written in there because it could mask something, and they're worried about people do the soaring to get an aggravated action out of the horse and movement. Most disciplines, I would say, you're not ever going to see anything like that because we're trying to keep our horses not sore. But there have been some rather rude things done in past history, and that's why this was put in act back, I think it was 72, 74, something like that.
Whatever, 55 years ago.
55 years ago. Yes. So, it becomes animal abuse. And but when they opened up what it encompassed as far as what they were calling soaring, there was one point something came up about the way a horse is ridden could be considered soaring. So that is all being looked at. Probably going to be revamped a bit, and because it was getting way out there on what could be considered soaring.
And if it lets it get way out there enough, it's almost going to be at a point where you're going to have a driver's license to prove that you can ride a horse.
Right.
That type of deal. If you're worried about an inexperienced rider sitting on a horse, because God knows you and I both know a lot of inexperienced riders that sit on those horses and they go out there and they're not doing it right or they're not doing something, and you're going to have like a skill level, and you're going to have, let me see your driver's license, let me see your horseman's license.
Well, that's like with my job. One thing they said a nail could be considered soaring.
Driving a nail into a foot.
Well, they said a nail placed in a limb.
Okay, do you put nails in limbs normally, Mike?
Well, the foot's on the end of the limb.
Well, it's at the end of the limb, but when you think limb, I'm thinking like right there in the dorsal fin. Do the horses have dorsal fins?
I would think they don't have dorsal fins, but
it sounded good.
They could, but the act of, okay, if you got a very, very thin-walled horse and he happens to be a little interested in other things besides what you're doing that day, and sometimes you can have a nail that you can place and everything seems fine until 2 or 3 days later it says, "Ow, this is bothering me."
Got a little
Is that
raw.
something that's going to be written up as animal abuse because you were trying to do the best job you could? And I don't know any farrier that's out there trying to make any horse sore.
Mm-hmm. So that's well, we still have to wait till the upcoming months to figure out what they're going to do.
Right.
So I guess they're going to relook at everything, and that's good. That's good that someone stepped up and said, "Whoa, wait a minute,
This may be a problem.
What are we doing here, guys? Honestly, is this what we're doing now? And someone's got the brains and the I don't know the Italian phrase for that's what I'm thinking. The cojones to come up and say, hey, maybe we need to look at this a little bit more, guys, and actually have someone go, you know what, maybe he's right or she's right or something like that. So we'll see. And we got
so open to interpretation that we don't know what we're going to get.
Yeah, we need a little bit more definition on that, a little bit more concrete description. All right, guys, when we come back, we'll bring Richard Malmgren on, and we'll talk to him and figure out what got him into the horse industry and all his training and expertise. He's got a lot of information and a wealth of knowledge. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. So that's how you do the show, Mike, or Richard.
Is it? I'm trying to learn.
There you go. Now he's up there.
There he is.
So, you all right now? That's the opening of the show. So that's basically what we do.
Yep.
So I'm going to bring you on.
All right.
And I'll ask you a couple questions and we'll just jump right in. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Mike, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can join the podcast. The way you do that is to go over to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says, join the podcast. When you click on that, it opens up a big old screen there, and you can see all the past episodes. If you haven't got caught up, now's a great chance to do that. But the key thing about join the podcast is at the top of the page, it has a big orange bar. It says, be heard. You can leave a message for Mike Stine. You can speak right into your device. If you have a phone, a tablet, anything with a microphone on,
Nobody wants to talk to me.
we'll talk to you. You speak right into it. It comes right to our inbox, and we'll play it on the very next podcast. Your voice can be heard right here in the studio alongside of us, and we broadcast every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town we like to call Marshville. And over to my far hand side, my very own little town is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good, Travis. How are you? And welcome to the show, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
And joining us this week is Richard Malmgren, a professional horseman and a long-lining trainer. Now, explain to me what long-lining is, and is there a short-lining trainer?
Well, that's a good question. Well, long-lining is a way of riding the horse from the ground. So you're still like working the horse just like you're riding, except you're doing it from the ground, and so you have longer lines as reins, and then you're still working the horse as if you were riding it, but you're taking the rider element out of the picture from sitting on top of the horse.
Now, my ears from doing radio for so many years, they're pretty dense right now. But do I sense an accent from you, Richard? Are you from somewhere?
Yes.
where are you?
From somewhere, right?
Yeah, but where were you born? Where were you born at? And what brought you over here? And I'm assuming you're here in the United States right now.
Yep, I'm here in the United States. I'm in Wellington, Florida at the moment, but I am originally from Sweden. The south of Sweden. I grew up there on a horse farm, and my father was a horseman, a jumper and event rider, and so I had horses growing up, and then I came to the United States in 1996 on a working what's it called?
Visa?
Yeah, it's a visa that is agricultural. Back then it called AIPT visa. And so I did a 1-year apprentice working in the United States in Maryland at a farm named Hilltop Farm. And then I went back to Sweden and I started university there. And then I stayed in touch with Hilltop, and I actually then transferred from Swedish University to University of Delaware. And then I was doing the 4-year program at University of Delaware, and I did a marketing business degree with a major in marketing, and then I continued working with the horses at Hilltop, and then the rest is history. We can go on and on about that.
So no side jobs at like McDonald's or something or anything like that. Just straight into the horse community, and that's all you've ever learned. Well, that's interesting, because a lot of people, it takes a lot to say this is what I want. Now, granted, you said your dad was a horseman and a rider and everything. To say I'm going to follow in my parents' footsteps and stay with it for so long. A lot of kids rebel and say I don't want to do what my mom and dad did, but Richard stuck right into it. And I'm assuming because your dad must have been a good trainer, or must have been a good representation of the sport.
Yes, I mean, I still really he's unfortunately we lost him way too early, and but he's definitely always the one that I relate to, seeing all the pictures when I grew up as a kid of him riding, and then when he saw that I was really interested in it, because it wasn't like it was pushed on me, never ever. Actually, almost the opposite, that it's really not a career and you should have an education. And subsequently I did end up with an education.
Sure.
I still ended up being a horse professional, but that was definitely not pushed on me. But when he saw that I was really dedicated, that's when he really started to support me and be enthusiastic about it. But because in Sweden, we have like riding clubs in every small little village. Back when I grew up in Sweden, the riding was the second largest participated sport in Sweden after soccer.
Oh, really?
Pretty big,
Wow.
And so it's readily available, and so that's how it all started.
Mike, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was talking about his explanation of how he got over here. I was interviewing someone at a point some years back and asked them how they got over here. They said it was a plane. It was a big plane. Mm-hmm. They put their luggage underneath.
It's a little bit more in detail with Richard here. So for for the people out there, people say a horsemanship. You're a professional horsemanship. Now, we've had professional horsemen on here before, people with horsemanship. Who was the young gentleman with the big handlebar mustache that was here in the studio?
Mark Hossman.
Yeah, Mark Hossman. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Richard. When you say horsemanship, is that like saying, and I'm not knocking the title itself, it's like when farriers say, I'm a podiatrist now, but legally you have no like certification or anything like that. Being a horseman, is it some kind of accreditation or something like that you have to, like a realtor, you have to get so many points, you have to continue your education on being a horseman in order to be called a horseman?
Well, that's really a good question. I
know Sweden might be a little bit different, and not to interrupt you, but I know Sweden and other countries are a little bit different, because we spoke to Sydney.
Simon.
No, I'm sorry. We talked to Simon,
England.
and he was over in England, and he's like, yes, we have to take these kind of accreditations in order to be called anything over there. Mm-hmm. So I know being over here in the United States might be a little bit different than over
here you can call anything you want to call it.
Yeah. So, I mean,
as long as you're,
So, as far as your aspect, as far as what you do and calling yourself a horseman, is there something that you do to maintain that accreditation or title?
Well, I mean, for me, really, what's important is that the common denominator is the horse, and so it's like, we have to listen to the horse and understand the horse, and again, I think that, being around horses and learning to speak their language, which is, their body language, that's the only way we can, in my opinion, communicate with a horse is to read them. They can't talk to us in English. And I always tell people, like, the Olympics, like it's everything is hard. That's the top of the line, of sports that gets to the Olympics. But my partner as a horse, I cannot ask him on that day at the Olympics, how did you sleep last night? Or how was the water you drank this morning? And do you feel up for it today? And then when I say that, and I haven't gone to Olympics, but it's like, I'm just using that so that people can understand that it's like our sport, we're working with a partner that we cannot talk to, and again, I think that then people are like, when you break it down like that, because if I play tennis with a partner, or if I have another, partnering sport, we can communicate, but you can't do that besides reading the horse's body language. And to me, that is the essence of horsemanship. When we can get to that point where we can really understand the horse, and that goes for everything. That's why, again, I talked about management in my topics and in horse careers, is that like my specialty is the longlining, and then, Mike is a farrier. He's a horseman, and Mark Hausman is a horseman, and, so
I am not a horseman. I am not considered a horseman.
You take feed to them.
I do take feed to them, and I make sure that they're in the stalls and stuff.
And hopefully the electric fence works.
So, yeah, make sure the electric fence works. So explain the difference as far as how longlining in your field is better, or how that approach is different than having a rider in the saddle. What do you do different with longlining as to having, a butt in the saddle?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and so that, for me, I always say that it's a cross training tool, and it is a complement, not a substitute to riding. We don't make Olympic longlining horses, and so I always start out with that it's a complement, not a substitute. And then basically it is that you're taking the rider element out of the picture when you're longline. So the horse has to take full accountability and responsibility for its body, and I always use this analogy about, like, when we go to the gym and hop up on a rail and do pull-ups, I have to own up to my own body. I have to own it, whatever it is, and then if I start kicking with my leg when I'm up there, I create more work. If I let go of one arm, I have to really own it more. And so, of course, a horse doesn't do pull-ups and push-ups and that. But again, it creates the visual about like, oh, I got to own my own body. And that's what the longlining does. Because when we are riding a horse, we can support the horse with our weight aid, leg aids, seat aids, and and so that those are really powerful aids, that doesn't exist on the long line. So that's
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's like the biggest difference. What I try to tell people, I'm still riding the horse. I'm still like channeling the horse. I'm still asking the horse questions to rebalance and stuff like that. But you're taking that rider element out of the picture.
Well, that's one of those things that really got my attention, and has with your work and many others that are doing that, because there are riders and there are people think they're riders, and it plays a huge difference in what kind of effects I'm getting on my end, and getting the horse prepared to carry the rider before you throw it on there. Really, they got to be able to round up and lift up, and we're all working in the same direction. But if the rider is fighting that and giving the horse signals that they may think are asking them to, but asking them to go in other directions, it makes it very tough on my end to keep a horse moving correctly.
Yeah. Well, and that's also where we go back to where I grew up, in Sweden, where, it is so much about actually lunge lessons, which is then, like the rider gets up there, but is riding without stirrups, and without reins, because the person that lunges the horse is in control of the horse. But then you have to learn how to become one with the horse,
right,
with your seat, because that is, obviously the horse wasn't meant to carry anything. That's something that we have, at one point somebody decided that we were going to get on these creatures' back and start riding them,
Grab that animal, jump on him. He looks fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
Exactly.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, Richard's going to dive into the whole horse management aspect of owning horses and training horses. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Have we totally messed him up yet?
No.
We will.
No.
We will.
He's handling.
That was good.
He's handling his own. He's doing well. Now this is where we really bombard him with stuff. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we also have a YouTube channel. You can see all the different podcasts that we have here on that channel. Go to Equine Dynamics on YouTube, search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. And Mike, congratulations. You're over 2,000 subscribers now. I think you're creeping up on 2,500 subscribers now. And the reason why I bring that up is because for a while there, we were kind of just forcing the audio portion of the channel out, and people would go and see the YouTube and stuff. But with all the videos, all the x-rays, all the photos, all the live guests that we've had here over the last 3 years, the channel is really, really taken off. We appreciate each and every one of you that are doing that. So if you'd like to see everything that goes on in the full-length podcast, go over to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics or Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Give us a subscribe over there, and you can join in on the fun. And my very own fun guy over to my far inside is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and joining us this week in the studio, you can see him on YouTube as well, is Richard Malmgren, a professional horseman and longlining trainer. How are you, Richard? And thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm good.
Now, you say you're from Sweden. When's the last time you've been from Sweden? You go back now and then just to make sure that you don't like that cold weather and stuff, and the cocoa or whatever that you got going on over there?
Yeah, no, I still have my mom over there and my brother and his family. So yeah, I and friends, of course. So yeah, I try to go over at least once, hopefully twice a year.
Well, that's good. That's good that you stay in contact with them and stuff.
Yep.
Now, we were talking about the longlining and having a rider, the advantage of having a rider on the horse and a rider not on the horse doing the longlining. And you said something about sitting in a saddle with no stirrups and no handrails or something, just so you can learn how to sit in the seat. I'd be scared to death. I would slip off or slide off to the side or something like that, like in a cartoon. I guess they do that. I've never heard anyone do that. Honestly, since we've been doing this show and since my wife has had horses,
If you do, you'll stop when you hit the ground.
I'm sure. So this is a common practice but you would have to have someone on the ground for the most part doing the lunge line. I understand that part.
Yeah.
So when we talk about horse management, are you talking about physically managing the horse or managing time and availability and getting things lined up? Like I know my wife has like body workers come in and training and working the training schedule and working with the farrier schedule and all that. When you say management, what does that encompass as far as the equine world?
Well, for me, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it, but for me, it is again, the horse in the focus, so that we have, everybody has to work with a trainer. In my opinion, even the best of the best in the world, they have a trainer. And so we have to schedule and take time for that. Then the people that are competing at the higher levels, a lot of them have, a sports psychologist that they work with, and then, so that's working on themselves. And then, they might need to have chiropractic work in that. But then it's also the same thing for the horse. You have to have, a farrier that can shoe the horse, because no hoof, no horse, right? I mean, that's the saying that we've all heard all the time. But then it's also the management of veterinary care, that the horse is up to date on shots and again, feeling good in its body. And then there's all these new alternative therapies. There's blankets that you put on them prior and after you ride, and there's just a lot of these things that goes, in my opinion, into managing the horse.
So one of the things I like to bring up as far as managing a horse, something that I'm going through here, is not that anything bad or anything, but this year, because my wife has now taken my wife, you've met Diego, which is our horse, and my wife Amy, and you've worked with her many times. And one of the things that she's advanced so much so quickly on Diego, as far as she's ridden.
It's all because of her farrier.
It's because of her farrier, exactly right. Sit here in front of the guy that teaches her the longlining thing. No, it's not the longlining guy. It's just Mike. No, but she's advancing and she's achieving so much very quickly. So I said, for this year, not a New Year's resolution, I said, as far as management, this is the way I'm kind of working back to the topic here. We need to start managing exactly what we're doing and what we're spending. So I'm thinking financially managing, saying, look, instead of this coming out and just throwing money, I'd like to do that and throwing money at that, and then throwing money. Oh, I want to go do that clinic. I want to do that, and I need this horse trainer. I need this body work done. I need, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
We're going to have to get Doge involved.
Yeah, we're going to have to get the federal government involved and making sure that we're trimming the fat on it. So that's one management thing that we were trying to do, or are trying to do, or going to do. We will do. Yeah. We will do this year, is to make sure we're not bleeding money. And no one gets into the horse business to make any money, for the most part. They do it for the love of the animal. They do it for the love of the sport. They do it for just their own personal beliefs and value, as far as, what the horse does for them. It's an extension of themselves and their soul. There's so many different things. But we're talking about management as far as financial management. And a lot of people don't understand that. Can you dive into that a little bit more, as far as, like, I know it's asking a weird question, financially. Where would you trim fat if you could? I mean, I don't want to put anyone out. That's the only thing. I know if you don't want to answer the question, that's fine. But, do we need the body worker? Do we need the body worker twice a week? Do we need do we need the longlining guy? Do we need Mike the farrier out there?
No, not really.
It's that type of management. And I'm not putting any one of them, they're all on equal grounds. But I mean, it's one of those things that we're managing now. So just expand a little bit on the information that I've given you.
Yeah, and so for me, again, it goes right back to the horse and listening to the horse, because again, like you're saying, all these things just adds up, and everything in horses, costs a lot of money. And so, but I think that we have to look at the horse there, of what is the necessities, for the horse. And that is, the horse has to feel good to be able to do the work that we want him to do. And so, you cannot, veterinary costs, as far as like just, shots and staying on top of that. And then, like I said, no hoof, no horse. And whether that is that the horse needs shoes, or it doesn't, but it still need a farrier. I mean, that's 100%, you know. And so, and then I think that, again, it also depends on what level, you know, where you're going, and then that horse, what it needs as it progresses up the levels of care, you know. And then I think too that it's always interesting to say, you know, if you did body work, you know, X amount of time, if you skip one, do you feel a difference, you know? Or if you have one lesson like every other week instead of every week, you know, do I feel like I'm really like being stagnant then, or there's no difference, you know? I think to test some of those things, you know, because it can also get into our heads a little bit of a placebo, like, you know, that we just have to have the blanket, because if I don't put the blanket on, I won't get the result and stuff. But I'm not saying that some horses, it's a huge difference. Like, you know, I know that, you know, you can switch a horse's nose band and you can create dramatic difference in how the horse feels and rides. You know, so we have to be open-minded to try. It's not just all in our minds, you know. And so I think a little trial and error is important in as far as that, you know, because yes, we cannot do everything because financially it can be, you know, very, very hard.
I mean, Mike's told several stories about you going out there and dealing with a person's horse, and they say, you know, well, we can't afford doing that. Let's approach this way.
So we've got to back up and punt and find different ways to make approaches depending on every situation. Right. And some of it is financial for sure.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into horse careers. If you ever thought about getting into this business, the pros and cons, and I'm going to do everything I can to talk you out of it. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you don't want to go on the air, you don't want your voice to be heard on the air, I understand. A lot of people get shy and stuff like that, so don't worry. We have another avenue for you to get your information over to us if you have a question for Mike Stine. The way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page it says Contact Us. There's a little form there. You can fill out your little question in there. Email it to us. Comes right to our inbox, and we'll read it on this podcast. If we don't get it on this podcast, we'll read it on the very next podcast. But here's the thing. If you send us an email, you also have to put a physical address, because we will send you out a magnet. We will send you out some stickers. We will send you out a keychain for being part of the show, and just our way of saying thank you for joining us and supporting us as well. And over my far hand side, my very own support guy is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Travis? And how about you, Richard? Doing
I'm
okay?
Good, thanks. Good. I'm happy to be here.
And joining us this week on the program is Richard Malmgren, professional horseman and long-lining trainer all the way from Sweden. You've been in the United States for how long now? You said 96 you came over here?
Yep, 96.
96, and you've been here ever since. Well, back and forth for a couple years, and now you're here permanently.
The year 96, not that he was 96.
No.
Yeah, I got you.
And you're based out of the Wilmington area?
I'm in Landrum, South Carolina.
Okay, so South Carolina. So that's where you're at right now. Okay. So you're not too far from us. What is that, like a 2-hour drive, Mike? On horse?
Something like that. Yeah.
On horse? How long?
Horse just a little longer, yeah.
It might be a little longer. So
unless you got a horse and a trailer and you're riding it.
So we dove into the horsemanship and what it means to be an actual horsemanship, and what does that involve. We also talked about managing your vet, managing all the stuff, the accoutrements that cost, and the care that it takes to keep a horse at a certain level and to maintain that level or to achieve a higher level. Now we're going to talk about careers. Now, Richard, when you say careers, horse careers, are you talking about like you and Mike, or are you talking about the horse itself having a career?
No, I'm actually talking about us, the humans, you know, because I just find that there's so many people that I'm going to ride in the Olympics, you know, I'm going to be a top show jumper, I'm going to be a top dressage rider and stuff like that. And, you know, it's hard, but you can, there's so many you know, careers and fields that you can become, you know, involved in the horse, you know, industry, you know. And
chiropractor, body worker, what is that, stallman, barn hand or something like that? I call him stallman.
Barn manager.
Barn manager, anything like that.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, for me, like I have you know, because I've been in it for so long. Like I have a really, really good friend, and she is, you know, an expert and works for a company that transports horses by air, you know, and so she is you know, working for the Duda Corporation, which is you know, one of the big ones here in the United States, and you know, coordinating everything, you know, from like, you know, getting the horses ready to go over to Europe for competitions or longer terms of training, and then coming back, because that in itself is like so much work that we can't, you know, as individuals, you know. And so
now I've seen them on the planes. Do they actually have, you know, they're lined up like playing cards, they're lined up in the plane. Do they have, someone might have told me this a while ago, do they have like a physical handler there in the stall with them, or are they just on the plane somewhere? Or did I see that in the movie, or did I read that?
So they horses are shipped in a container that is like set up like a horse trailer,
right?
You know, so you can either have, you know, 3 horses in one of the containers with a you know,
divider
partition between them, of course, you know, or you can do a stall and a half, which then there's just 2 horses in each container, and then then they're being driven out, like just like the luggage out, and then the container is hoisted up, and then it's put onto because in these cargo planes there's like tracks, so then these containers are like lined up in a track that goes in, and then they lock the track, you know, and then you know, I've flown with horses many times, and so, you know, then I fly as a horse groom, you know, and then I am
I guess that's where I was going. There's a groom that's in the horse, and that's another job. That's another career that you can have. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just find it is because the same thing with you know, the people that I work with in the insurance world with horses and stuff. They need to be horse people. They need to know what it is that we are dealing with as horse owners and or, you know, professionals, that we have to have liability insurance and stuff like that. You want to be able to work with somebody that understands us and that are, you know, knowledgeable about the industry, you know. And so I just think that is something that we don't talk about enough, that there are so many careers that you can then target the market of that industry. And so I just always like to bring that up, because it's not always about sitting in the saddle and riding and becoming a top international rider, you know.
You know, diving back to the management in itself, there is, and dealing with careers and kind of merging these two topics together, you have to be on point as a horse owner, a horse trainer, a horse rider, to be wary of, you know, you have to almost vet your quote unquote employees. You know, and when I say employees, you know, when you're boarding your horse, the barn manager, make sure that they have some kind of knowledge, like you were saying, you know, some kind of, they need to know horses and stuff. Because God knows there's some people out there that say, I'm a horse whisperer. I can listen to a horse
and know things to horses.
Yeah, and then you're like going, get out of here. And then there's people out there that, you know, I'm a horse massager, and they just go out there and push on the horse a couple times. All right, that's $150, you know, that type deal. So you almost, you know, with management comes along the lines of you have to vet you're the people that are in their careers and touching your horse.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I have a really a story that I like to share, you know, about that, because you're so true. You have to have a team, you know, around your horse that you trust in, you know, because it takes a team. It's what we call it takes a village to make this happen.
Right.
But when I started my own business, I had left my employer and I was venturing out, you know, and it takes time to build it up and stuff. I fortunate to be a good friend with Olympic team show jumper veterinarian, Dr. Tim Ober. And so I took part-time working for him that year, which was the season in Florida, 2013 going into 2014. And at the end of the season, he asked me, so what's your biggest takeaway? And I said, easy, hands down. When we drive in to the barn of Canadian 10-time Olympic show jumper Ian Miller's barn, guess who is there? Ian Miller. And when we were evaluating the horse, and to check it. So that again, and I took that away with, like, he does not want to leave any stone unturned. He wanted to tell the veterinarian, this is what I feel when I work the horse. That there's a direct line of communication there, and that was a huge takeaway, from that. Now we of course pulled in there, and then later we're, treating the horse or whatever. He wasn't there all the time because obviously he's a busy person. But when we came in to evaluate his horse, he was there, and that I think is important, that it's the person is there to really be able to communicate. And I think that, Mike, if when you, as a professional farrier, when you're dealing with something, it is so crucial that the person who is working the horse, that it's not just a groom, because they know the horse. So I'm not trying to diminish them, but communication is key.
I tell you, the trainers I work for communicate directly with me. And, when I was doing running horses, some of my best information came from the grooms.
Yeah.
But, because some of these grooms really knew their horses. But the ones that do not want to communicate, and that goes for vets or body workers or anywhere else, as far as I'm concerned, we're not really working together. No. And I want direct communication, because then you play the game of telephone and telling what you're hearing the other one said.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing that I've noticed with, I've known my wife for 18 years, and she's always had horses, and she had horses before I was even around, is that the horse community, you're talking about careers. You want to get a career, I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to jump on a horse and be in the Olympics. The horse community itself, when it comes to careers, is such a very, very tight-knit group. It's very, very hard to get into that group. You almost have to be like the Masons. You almost have to be, sponsored to get in. Like, if I just started shooting horses, I'm not going to walk up to a barn, hey, I'm a farrier, and all right, do that horse over there. It's not like I'm coming up with a lawnmower and I'm mowing your lawn. You'll let that guy touch your lawn, but you're not going to let a farrier who's got some kind of degree, or not degree, but some kind of education behind him.
Kicked in the head.
Kicked in the head. Look, this is from a horse. Just walk into a barn. You almost need to be accepted by the horse community in your career, whatever your career that is. Even vets outside of the fact that, he's the only vet in town. I know there's 3 vets, and there's 1 vet in this town that we will not go to, because we just do not, I don't want to say trust him. He's just not well with the direction that we're going. And everyone in our little horse community knows that vet. Oh yeah, to stay away from that guy, or stay away from that girl, that type of stuff. It's a very, very, so we kind of look out and care for each other, not necessarily our horses, with all the people that we've brought in, but other people's horses as well.
Now,
as far as the careers and stuff.
A friend of mine that was another fellow comrade, farrier friend of mine, or whatever.
Does he know this?
He said that, it's a pyramid up to the top. He said, but the thing with the horse world, the pyramid, the sides aren't straight. They start out way out here and they taper in, and then it goes up, just as high to this very, very small pinnacle. And everybody wants to be here, and they think it's a straight line.
They can just jump right in there.
But the base is so wide, the top is so narrow, and there's so much in between. But it's not, everybody has high expectations for where they want to go, and there's so many things that play into it.
And Richard, think about, like you said, you're not putting the person that's the groom down, but think about someone who comes in and wants to be a groom. Are you going to look at that person different if they don't come with a recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, but you also got to understand that people got to start somewhere.
Yes, I understand. I understand that. Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah. So then you have to look at what kind of just qualities does that person, seem, because if a person is willing to learn, then and open-minded to learning, then I can actually teach that person the way that how I like to have things done.
Right.
So that can also be a positive thing if the person has those skills and traits that are adaptable to be learned. So, but yeah, of course, I do think Mike really made a good explanation with that kind of pyramid, about how it is, and that is a good analogy.
The amount of dedication when people say I want to go to, it's mind-boggling, the amount of dedication, the amount of hard work, the amount of learning that it takes to get to the high levels. And I don't think people are ready for that when they say they want to go there.
Well, I'm learning it now with my wife she's going on higher levels. I'm like going, geez, let's wrinkle this in a little bit.
It's okay. You can afford it.
Yeah, I can afford it. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break and one more little segment. We'll let you get back to playing with your ponies. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Am I wearing your brain out there?
No, not at all. This is good. I just find that, because for me, that was such a thing with having gone around, and then when a person of that stature just like is there, I think some people just sometimes they just need to hear that even these big people are not leaving any stone unturned.
Yeah. They're doing the same thing as what you're doing. Oh no, they can afford to have someone do it. No.
No, that's not so, because I do have a rider who has been to the Olympics that I work for.
Right.
And she's
right on top of things.
Every detail.
Don't be trying to steal my new pens. Every time I leave, I'm
steal his pens. He's very particular about his pen.
I'm a pen.
I've swapped a couple and he did not like it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a silver pen. I use a blue pen. Creature of habit, right? If it doesn't fall in line, then everything's out of whack. Last little segment. Again, I'll just do a speed round of what we talked about, and I'll go around the room. I'll say Mike, and then I'll say Richard, and you give your little, and I'll say, we'll talk about horsemanship. Mike, what does horsemanship mean to you? Richard, what does it mean to you? Horse management. I'll bounce it off whoever's in the lead, and then horse careers, and then at the end of that, I'm going to go, okay, and Richard, where can our listeners find you? Where can they get their information? And that's where you just basically spill your guts. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can find him over on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on Facebook. He posts a lot of interesting articles up there, a lot of pictures, a lot of stuff that's going on that furthers your education in the equine and horse community world. He's not one of those people that just posts like a sandwich that he ate that day. This is my sandwich I ate today. He doesn't post anything like, boy, this weather's really dumpy. No, everything that he posts is over on his Facebook page has some kind of meaning, some kind of educational value. If you're in the horse community,
put a can of sardines on top of the forge to heat them up.
I don't think they want to see that, but he doesn't post pictures like that. He posts stuff that's actually involving the horse community. It's kind of like a partnership back and forth with the people that follow him over on Facebook, and you can find him at Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on Facebook. And over to my far hand side, my very own pack of sardines is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And joining us this week here on the show, you can follow us over on YouTube. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine, is Richard Malmgren, professional horseman and long-lining trainer. How are you? And thanks again for joining us.
I'm good, thanks, and thanks for having me.
Now, you never answered my question at the beginning of the show. Is there a short line training, or is that something that's... I mean, it's either long... If it's long, you would think there'd be a short line training there.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways there is actually, to be honest. It's, it's just that when you walk really close to the horse, but you're still not on the horse, because then you can work the horse also without being on top of him, and then you can be very, very much more precise with touching the horse's legs to teach them the more advanced movements and that. So, I don't know that that's called like short line training. It's more called like in hand work, but it's definitely a version of that. So
it's a form of driving of sorts. I have watched someone do that, and they were like basically right off the horse's hip.
Is it the same? Is it the same setup as the long lining, where you use the reins and stuff on the same way, or is it a total different setup? I know I'm getting way off topic here.
No,
but.
No, it is very, very similar
Okay.
equipment and lines. Yep.
All right, Mike, what did we learn today?
What did we learn today?
We're Richard Malmgren, professional horseman and long-lining trainer, also doing short-line training sometimes. We were talking about horsemanship and what does it mean to the average person out there. Richard, go ahead.
Well, I think it's just, again, it's really understanding the horse and learning to read the horse. For me, that is the key. We have to be able to get to know the horse and look after them, because they are our partner, and they're somebody that we can't speak whatever our native tongue language is with. So we have to learn to read their body language.
And Mike?
Yeah, I was discussing with a young farrier coming up about the horse and horsemanship and paying attention to the horse, that you can go to every clinic, read every book out there, you learn everything you can. You've got to go out and try it, see how horses react. They're all going to react different. You're going to find that a lot of horses did not read the books. You're going to have to watch them and learn what they do. And that takes time and dedication. But it's like, you when you walk in a barn, you see a horse, Richard, I know that you pick up on things immediately because you spent so much time around them, and that's not something that anybody can develop overnight.
Yeah.
Also, we're talking about horse management and what does it mean when we're talking about management of yourself and the horse as well. Richard?
Well, for me, again, it takes a team to be able to do our sport. We have to have that circle of trust in our team, and then again, communication is key in that, and between the veterinarian and the farrier, that they are listening to each other, and then the common denominator there is the trainer and the rider, because they're the spider in the web, along with the horse, of course, but I just think that it takes a team there. And that is what I mean about the management. And then we can get into a lot of other management, time management. You can go into financial management, stuff like that. But in general, what I meant with that is really, really about that team of people around you to make the horse become and feel the best.
My main focus right now is financial management. That's all I got.
Yeah. And I mean, like myself, I've got a network of people that are literally around the world that I can call on, bounce stuff off of, people that work in areas in the farrier industry that are not my normal realm, that I can always bounce something off of and get another feeling from another professional that deals with stuff that I don't necessarily all the time.
And also, we dove slightly into the horse careers, and not necessarily the career of the horse, but the people that surround the horse. As you were talking about the vets and everything else. If you'd like to get into like the career, the aspect of being in a career, whether it be trainer, rider, or something like that, and just all aspects of anything that has to be worked on with the horses. Richard?
Yeah, I just think that too many people are just so focused on riding and competing, and that's their main focus. And it's like it's there are so many ways to be able to be involved in our industry and be doing it at the top level, and being part of the equine industry. And I just think that's important to talk about and to share all those people, and those people having a voice, and that they are fulfilling a real big role. And I consider myself there because I've been riding since I was a kid, and love riding still, but I'm not pursued international show career and that, but I have found my niche that I can really be good and contribute to top riders and be involved with not only top riders but amateurs and everybody, and found a niche to do that. And I think that's something that is very, very important to share about.
Mike?
Yeah, no matter how long you've been in this, I just did the International Hoof Care Summit, went to lectures there. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for for gaining more knowledge. And I think if you're in the industry, you should strive to be the best you can be and see what road it takes you down. Because if you're not that dedicated to it, I'm not sure you should be, be doing this.
And, it's almost to the effect of being a horse owner or horse rider, if you're one and the same. You're almost sort of like an office manager or an owner of a company, because the horse is your company, and you have to make sure you hire and make sure you surround your company with the best people that have the best interest for your product, which is your horse, whether it be on down the line from vet to the groom and so on and so forth. You almost have to be a manager of your product, which is your horse.
Yep, absolutely.
Mike, anything else?
That I think that pretty well covers most things.
All right, guys, make sure you follow us over on YouTube. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the program, part of the podcast, the way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says join the podcast. Fill out all that information. Your voice can be heard, and you can be anonymous. Your voice can be heard right here on the show. We broadcast every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you enjoyed the show and you'd like the show to perform out at your clinic, what?
Can you do a AI thing and make them sound like Daffy Duck?
I could probably,
yes,
if I worked on it hard enough. And if you like this clinic to perform out at you, or if you like this podcast to perform out at your clinic, your location, if you got a barn with any amount of people there, you got a special event. We have all the spring flings coming up. Our scorecard's getting filled up here soon. So pencil yours in, and we can do this show right at your location. Mike and myself will join you, and we'll do this podcast right on your very own front doorstep. On behalf of Richard Malmgren over there for joining us this week.
Have a good day. Enjoy your ponies.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Yep.
And for all our listeners out there, Richard, if they need to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a website, richardmalmgren.com, and there you find some information and pictures about my background and what I do and offer as far as clinics and some consultation and stuff like that. And richard.malmgren@yahoo.com is my email, and
spell your last name.
Malmgren.
Gren. Got it.
Yep.
All right, Mike.
Yep, enjoy your ponies and have a good day, and thank you, Richard.
And we'd like to thank Richard Malmgren for joining us this week on the show. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, guys.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week. All right, we're clear.
Now I can talk.
Hi, Lucky. Good night, Ned.
Oh, you're still there.
Good night, Ned.
Okay.
Good night, Ned.